Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's safe to say that things continue to look worse and worse for Snow White and Rachel Zegler, no matter how much they try to avoid the drama, no matter how much they try to avoid the backlash. It seems to come their way no matter what. But here's the funny thing about the video that we're about to talk about today. Apparently, the actors that are working on the film have openly admitted that Disney is trying to avoid any issues, specifically with Rachel Zegler, and she is the reason why they are not doing the red carpet stuff, the reason why they're not doing the US premiere and allowing interviews and the UK premiere, and the same thing with the interviews. She is the reason why. And we reported on a rumor essentially talking about the same exact thing, but now we have confirmation from an actor on the film that that is the case, and Disney is essentially trying to hide everybody from backlash. Let's get into this video, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So the headline reads, Snow White actor admits that Disney scaled back the movie premiere due to fear of Rachel Zegler controversies and criticizes dwarfs changes, but repeats the studio's revisionist history. Apparently, as Disney Snow White continues to be engulfed in controversy, one of the film's stars have confirmed what many already suspected. Disney is too afraid to hold a premiere. Martin Kleba, who voices Grumpy in the film, revealed that the studio scaled back the event over fears of backlash. However, despite his criticism of Disney's handling of the Seven Dwarfs, Kleba also repeated that the studio's talking point that they always intended to use motion capture animation for the characters, a claim that directly contradicts previous reports, leaked set photos, and even past statements from Disney itself. Now, I don't think anybody believes that they were originally going to use 7 animated dwarves. I just don't. I don't think anybody out there truly believes that, aside from maybe a couple of shills from Disney. But it was very clear from all the information that we had behind the scenes and also the leaked set photos, it was very clear that they originally planned to have 7 diverse dwarves. Or not even dwarves, just 7 diverse people with one dwarf that was in that lineup. That's it. Everybody else was going to just, there was never going to be any animated dwarves. It was very clear. But then suddenly, after all the backlash and negativity that came their way, not just because of Rachel Zegler, but also because of those leaked set photos, they delayed the movie for almost a year. This movie was supposed to come out a year ago, and they delayed this movie and have done extensive reshoots, which, of course, after they delayed the movie for almost a year, they suddenly reveal a trailer which shows, boom, the 7 animated dwarves. They could have easily did that beforehand. They could have easily made a message or sent a message out there talking about how, no, you guys, I know you guys are angry at the leaked set photos, but we're going to have 7 animated dwarves. That was the hope. They never did that. They waited the almost entire year, and then they didn't say a single thing. All they did was drop the trailer showing the dwarves. So that's why people believe that they were never going to have 7 animated dwarves to begin with, and I don't believe it either. Speaking to The Hollywood Reporter, Kleba openly acknowledged that the upcoming premiere is not the major event one would expect for a film remaking Disney's very first animated classic. It really isn't going to be a red carpet, Kleba said. It's going to be at the El Capitan Theater, which is cool, but it's basically going to be a pre-party. Watch the movie, and that's it. There's not going to be this whole hoopla of Disney's first effing movie that they ever made, because all of this controversy, they're afraid of the blowback from different people in society. And I like how he says different people in society, which basically means anybody who doesn't think like Disney, which is a lot of people, according to the last election. This confirms that Disney is actively avoiding publicity for Snow White, a sign of just how little confidence they have in the project. Kleba specifically attributed the decision to the controversy with Rachel, referring to lead actress Rachel Zegler, who has been widely criticized for mocking the original Snow White and for her politically charged outbursts on social media. Well, this is the problem. This is what happens when you hire children. This is what happens when you don't hire a professional. See, they hired someone based off their identity. They didn't hire someone based off their skill or their ability. How do we know that? Well, quite frankly, she doesn't have a filmography that would even justify hiring her for a lead role such as Snow White. She only worked on a couple of films, and most of them, if not all of them, were major box office bombs. So they clearly didn't look to her and say, yup, this is the best actress for the role. And they clearly didn't look to her and say, yup, this is the best actress that looks like Snow White. They didn't do any of that. They picked an actress simply based off her identity. And what do you get when you do that? You get an activist. You get somebody who is so unbelievably narcissistic that all they want to do is make everything about them. That is all you're going to get. And that's what Disney's currently dealing with by dealing with Rachel Zegler. But they dug their own grave. They made their own bed. I mean, whatever you want to say, they did that. That was their decision. So they have to deal with it. Disney's decision to shut out the press, at the premiere was already a red flag, but hearing one of the film's own actors confirm that the studio is running scared only reinforces the idea that Snow White is shaping up to be a disaster. But Kleba also took issue with Disney's decision to move away from the traditional portrayal of the Seven Dwarves, a change that was heavily influenced by actor Peter Dinklage, who called the original fairy tale backward. I don't usually get into political stuff, but I felt dwarves aren't going to go away just because you can't imagine that they're there, Kleba said. We're still going to be walking around, so I didn't get the whole stuff about not doing the dwarves. The story's been around forever, and it's a classic. This statement is notable because Kleba is the only little person actor who was given a role in the film. His frustration highlights just how much Disney pushed out actual dwarf actors in favor of CGI creatures, a move that has drawn criticism from little people in Hollywood, who saw it as a missed opportunity for real representation. Well, because listen, they don't care about real representation, right? They only care about the representation that's going to make them look the best. And unfortunately, because Peter Dinklage decided to kick the freaking stool out from under him, he's not going to allow anybody else to climb up on that stool and take roles that he could potentially take. He only cares about himself. And so he turned it into a racism thing, or he turned it into basically a prejudice thing. He turned it into something where, oh, if you hire these dwarven people, well, you're just contributing to a stereotype. You shouldn't do that. And then Disney wanting to do that initially probably thought, okay, well, I guess we should go with a, 7 group of diverse people and only cast one dwarf. That way we at least have one dwarf for representation. And yet they didn't even do that. They simply ended up going with CGI dwarves because with CGI, the only people you can offend are the people who care about the image of the CGI, but not an actual person themselves. So they basically were hoping that they can bank on the fact that the CGI dwarves are fake. And then if anybody complains and like, oh, look at these stereotypes, well, they could just say, well, it's not real. It's not real. CGI dwarves, it's not real. However, despite his frustration, Kleba then repeated the studio's talking point that CGI dwarves were always the plan, a claim that does not hold up to scrutiny. According to Kleba, the film had already intended to use motion capture animation for the 7 minors in the film, THR said in his article. This is blatantly false. Set photos from 2022 clearly showed a diverse group of actors of varying sizes and genders playing the 7 dwarves. The backlash to those images was immediate and severe, with many fans accusing Disney of erasing the iconic characters in favor of generic human replacements. And again, I remember this picture, and the only dwarven person was the one up front in the beginning. That was basically it. The Hollywood Reporter itself originally acknowledged this, admitting that Disney changed course after the backlash and ultimately went with CGI instead. However, the outlet later revised their article to erase this fact, claiming that CGI was always a plan, a clear case of Disney trying to rewrite history. Well, that's because what happened is that Disney probably reached out to Hollywood Reporter with their lawyers and said, you need to change this. And Hollywood Reporter said, okay, absolutely, please don't sue us. That's essentially it. By repeating this false narrative, Kleba appears to be helping Disney cover up its own flip-flopping rather than holding the studio accountable for how poorly it handled the situation. I mean, to be fair, the way that they've handled Snow White as a whole is pretty poor, and I think most people can acknowledge that at this point. Snow White is going to be the Assassin's Creed Shadows of the movie industry. It's coming out one day after Assassin's Creed Shadows, and both of these forms of content are going to be absolutely insane when it comes to controversy. But at the end of the day, man, Snow White could have been something so much more, but Disney is going to die on this hill of DEI no matter what, and they are going to utilize Snow White just like it started them all to essentially finish them all as well. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.